Because of what I realized, the gap that is existing between disability and media, and what we can do as media people, because I believe media is the mirror of the society. So we can change the narrative of disability in the media by us reporting disability stories, but also reporting stories that represent persons with disabilities well. So I'm not here not to judge you because maybe you don't report well or we are not doing enough. I'm here to encourage you guys, because there's nowhere we are taught about disability reporting. Edwin will agree with me. In our school at Kenya Mass, were we taught anything about disability? No. At the university, my first degree and my second degree, there's nowhere I'm taught about how to report stories on disability. That's why I keep on telling disability organization, DPOs, even members of parliament, organize training for these journalists so that when they report disability stories, we can be able to give a true representation and the correct representation of disability in media. Currently, I'm damaging my head at Dr. Msuruve's University, JKUAT, doing a PhD in mass communication, specializing in disability studies. There's no one who has taught me. Yeah, there's no one who has taught me about disability. In fact, when I go to defenses, if Musuruve is not there, I'm lucky because no one will ask me anything about disability. I somehow know much more than them. So I have a short presentation, and the presentation is just a journey. We start by understanding what disability is, some of the approaches we can use in our reporting, and then we can continue, because it is not that we just come here one day, sit, and then we learn everything about disability in one day. It took me so many years to learn about disability reporting. So currently I work at Internews. I resigned at KBC in December and joined Internews. It is an international organization. It trains journalists on different aspects. For me right now, I'm training journalists in Sub-Saharan Africa on disability reporting. So I'm focusing on Tanzania, Cote d'Ivoire, DRC, and Liberia. So at Internews, we say local voices for global change, because we believe the journalist voices can make a very big impact in the society. I can't be able to move the slide. Okay, that is a picture of some of the presenters of Able Differently. So Able Differently is also very unique because it is a program on disability, and the presenters are persons of disability, the reporters, and also they tell stories on disability. So I carry Able Differently everywhere I go, because that is what made Jackline Dubwe to be who she is right now. So what is disability? These are the definitions you know about disability by WHO and the bridge metaphor. I don't need to go into what is disability. But categories of disability, these are the most common disabilities we find in Africa. Physical disability, deaf, blind. Mental disability, we talk about intellectual and psychosocial disability. So when we are reporting stories of disability, these are the categories of disability we might encounter. Then the models of disability, these models came up maybe through the media and also through the society. So when people view disability, they view disability in a medical model. Medical model means fixing someone. They think if you are on a wheelchair, you need to go to the hospital to be healed so that you can walk like me. So that is a medical model. They think disability is something that we need to fix. It's not something that someone can live a fulfilling life with disability. Then we have traditional model. Traditional model, we see so many stories even in media of people thinking when they have a child with disability that is a curse, or maybe you did that bad thing to God, that's why you are blessed with a child with disability. So that is how our tradition or our society has made us see disability. There's also a charity model. So maybe on Friday there is Ramadan, so Muslims will go maybe to disability organization to take their something, so because they believe persons with disability are charitable persons, they need to be given alms. Even us during Christmas, the Christians will visit a disability organization to give them alms because we think that is what they are all about. The second one is super creep. Super creep is the stories that we see in the media when someone with disability has done something. We think it is very nice. Everyone will remember Godalyn Kakuya. Godalyn Kakuya, a girl with albinism. When she was the first girl in Kenya, what did media do? We even baptized her the Golden Girl, because we believe a person with disability cannot become number one. So if they become number one, there are some things so magnificent, they are golden, they are so what. But even this year KCP exam, it was a girl who was number one. How much attention did we give that girl? So those are the super creep inspirational stories that we see in the media. Then there's social fixing. So for social, this one we are saying we are supposed to fix the social attitude and how the society view about disability. That is a progressive model. And then we have the rights and political. This is a more inclusive model where we are saying persons with disability issues are human rights issues. When we view disability stories, is from an inclusion and a participation angle. So those are the models of disability, and those are how we portray disability stories in our media. Then I have this case study. Obuya, kindly read for me. This one will help us all understand about disability. Because you are a radio person, help me read this.
Maya is 34 and lives in a rural area of Kenya. In a tragic road accident, she injured her back. She was taken to hospital and diagnosed as having a spinal cord injury, health condition, or physical impairment. She cannot move her legs. She cannot sit up, but can walk. Difficulty in functioning. Her family takes her home as they cannot afford further rehabilitation or hospital-based care. Her economic situation is a barrier. There is no system in place to ensure her costs will be covered through social welfare or other benefits. The policy environment is a barrier. Maya is given a wheelchair, but her home is on a hill, with steps leading up to it, so she cannot independently move around by herself. So the physical environment is a barrier. While she is physically able to sit up and can do many things, she often stays at home. The perception of her community is that she can no longer take part in many community activities. The attitudes in her environment are a barrier to her participation. Maya has a disability which is a combination of all these factors. An impairment or health condition can be more or less disabling depending on the context in which it occurs.
Okay, thank you very much. I wanted to use this example so that I can explain disability in a passage. So disability is a combination of all these things. And before even I go further, we are all candidates of disability. You can just be walking outside here and then you get disability, you will be a Maya. So when we are talking about disability, don't just think disability people are there and then as we are here. It is a club, we don't apply to be part of it. So you can just have a disability one day. So when you have a disability, no, your disability is not what defines you. What we have done as a society, the health barriers, the policy barriers, the perception of persons with disability, how we view them, and even the policy and the education system, everything, accessibility. That is what makes disability more disabling than the disability itself. Tuko pamoja? Yes, so that is just a short understanding of disability so that we don't think we are here, we want to work for people who we cannot be part of it. We can all be candidates at any time. So when we are talking about disability, they are the largest minority in the world. I won't go into that, but those are the statistics. So for my work today was just to have a short guide on how to report on disability stories. So we say awareness is the first step to change. Even us just coming here, being told about disability and the importance of disability in the society, we are starting a journey of changing the narrative of disability in our society and in the media. So one of the most significant steps of changing disability narratives and attitudes towards PWDs begin when we rethink the way written and spoken images are used to portray people with disabilities. People with disabilities are not handicapped unless there are physical or attitudinal barriers that make it difficult for them to participate in everyday activities. You've seen Maya's case study. That is what makes disability a burden. So when we are doing disability reporting, because we've said in our institutions of higher learning, we don't have disability reporting. So what we are supposed to have is to use the person-first language. That is what the international people, the UNCPRD, is it CPRD? That is what they advocate for. Person first, then the disability. Because a person is not a condition or a disease. Avoid referring to a person's disability by his disability alone. For example, don't say someone post-polio or CP or epileptic. Refer instead to someone who has post-polio syndrome or has cerebral palsy or has epilepsy. So it is a person first, then the disability. Then don't use disabled as a noun because it implies a state of separateness. The disabled are not a group apart from the real society. They are part of the society. When writing or speaking about people with disabilities, choose descriptive words and portray people in a positive light. But still, you can just call them their name. You can just say Honorable Denita Gatti. You don't need to say Honorable Denita Gatti who sits in a wheelchair. It doesn't add any value to your story. Just say Honorable Denita Gatti. Hiyo. Sasa tunataka kuchange hiyo narrative. So also avoid calling someone a victim. So when you are doing a Honorable Gatti story, then you say, oh, he was a victim of a disability. Honorable Gatti, are you a victim? I can see you are happy. Life is going on better than even most of us. So we should avoid such description. Avoid referring to people with disabilities as cripples or crippled. This is a negative and demeaning language. Don't write or say someone is afflicted. They are not afflicted by disability. Avoid the word invalid as it means quite literally not valid. Write or speak about people with disability who use wheelchairs as wheelchair users. Don't say wheelchair bound. They are not bound in their wheelchair. They don't sleep in their wheelchair. They don't do everything in their wheelchair. So that is a bit demeaning. Then avoid words with negative connotation continues. Refer to people who are not disabled as non-disabled. So don't say normal people. If you say normal people referring to people who doesn't have disability, it means persons with disability are abnormal. So someone who is disabled is not a patient, is not a patient. So they're only patient when they contact maybe COVID or maybe malaria. They will be patient to their doctors. In the same vein, don't glamorize or make heroes of people with disabilities simply because they have adopted to their disability. That's why I was saying calling Godaline Kakuya Golden Girl, that was very wrong. We are making her to have some standard which makes her not to look like a normal girl who is growing up. Avoid cliches. Don't use unfortunate, pitiful, poor, dumb, creep, deformed, retarded, blind as a bat, or any other patronizing or demeaning words. So some of the approaches support the human rights-based approach. This one, it aims to empower disabled persons and to ensure their active participation in social, economical, political, and cultural life. So we should, everything we do, let's use the support the human rights-based approach. And this is the first person approach. Start with the person before the disability. Focus on the person and not the impairment. In describing a person's disability, focus on individual and not their functional or physical limitation. For example, say people with disability instead of the disabled person of short stature instead of dwarf. Given editorial pressure, we understand to save space or to accommodate design layouts, it is always possible to put people first. And that's why you are here as editors, not small reporters. You can be able to make a difference in your organizations. Then emphasize ability, not disability, unless it is a critical in a story. You don't really need to keep on reporting Honorable Tim Wanyonyi as a person with disability. You can just tell us story of Tim Wanyonyi without mentioning his disability. Then show persons with disability in active society. That's why you can hear Dr. Msuruve saying at KBC we invite him to talk about education matters. When you invite members of parliament with disability in your station, don't only invite them during the disability day. Is it 1st December or 3rd December? Don't only invite them to talk about stories of disability. Let them talk about economics, mathematics, education, farming. By us showing members of parliament that they can be able to discuss other issues, then we are saying that disability people they can be able to do anything. But they are not just complaining about disability from morning to evening. And that's why for me it's so unfortunate that Mwaura is facing whatever he's facing right now, because they expect, because he's just a person with disability, he's just supposed to talk about disability from morning to evening. When he talks about the rights and even politics, now it becomes a big problem. So even as we can start by inviting Honorable Tim, talk about constitution, because Honorable Tim is a lawyer. Tell us, so what is BBI? Don't just let Honorable Tim come and talk about disability and things about disability. And then allow people with disability to speak for themselves. Experience shows that when a disabled person speaks with confidence and authority about a particular situation, non-disabled audiences are more likely to believe than people with that people with disabilities are knowledgeable. So don't let us not summarize for them. Let us give them time to talk. And I think like people who have problems in speaking, like the stammerers. We don't like even to like inviting them because we don't have their time for them to start saying goo, 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 goo. So we think they are wasting our time. But we need to give them time to talk and articulate their issues. And also don't emphasize disabled heroes. That one I have said like so many times, just talk about disability as disability. So in summary, our concerted efforts to use positive, non-judgmental, respectful language when referring to people with disability in writing and in everyday speaking can go a long way towards helping to change the narrative of disability in media and hence our society. Because the media is the mirror of the society, and if we use the good portrayals in the media, we are going to change the disability narrative in the media and in the society. Thank you so much. I'm open for so many questions after this.